Hello and welcome to Network News. Today we're discussing the latest blow to the ever-troubled HS2 project, that being the decision to abandon platform edge doors at the line's two intermediate stations. But first, a little bit of backstory. Originally conceived as a way to massively increase Britain's rail capacity, HS2 would have seen a new high-speed rail spine constructed to connect Britain's largest cities, with Phase 1 seeing a new line between London and Birmingham, which would then split into two branches for Phase 2, one towards Manchester and another towards Leeds. Ultimately though, the line suffered from severe mismanagement, both internally but more importantly at a governmental level, with constant meddling and changes to the line's scope. These issues caused timelines to slip and budgets to increase, ultimately culminating in the previous government's decision to scrap the entirety of Phase 2, including Phase 2A to Crewe, despite the fact that this section of line already had parliamentary approval and preparatory works had already started. This is a decision which has been upheld by the current government and which continues to cause major issues which have been covered in depth by both this channel and from plenty of other YouTubers, media outlets and rail experts. Ultimately, the biggest issues come from the cancellation of Phase 2A, which was designed to bypass one of the West Coast Main Line's biggest bottlenecks through Stafford and College Junction. This is the point at which the West Coast Main Line goes down from 4 tracks to just 2. Add HS2 into the mix, and this problem is now even more pronounced, as the line would effectively be going down from 6 tracks into just 2. The result of this is that any trains running off HS2 and onto the existing lines to destinations further north would have to be run at the expense of existing services on the West Coast Main Line. This isn't inherently an issue. After all, the whole point of HS2 was to take fast trains off the existing lines, which this would still achieve for the southern section of the West Coast Main Line. The issue comes about because of train lengths. You see, existing express trains on the West Coast Main Line are up to 265 metres long with 607 seats aboard, but the trains ordered for HS2 will only be 200 metres long with 504 seats aboard. The justification behind this is that when they're running on the new high-speed line, they're able to be joined up to form 400-metre long trains, but no high-speed line north of Birmingham means no 400-metre platforms for the longer trains, so they have to run as the shorter 200-metre units. If Phase 2A to Crewe was still going ahead, this would be less of an issue, as it would provide an increase in capacity through the bottleneck, allowing for more trains to run, even if the trains themselves are slightly shorter. However, without 2A, you've got shorter trains operating, with no additional paths, ultimately leading to a reduction in seating capacity of 17%. This leads us to the topic of today's story. With Phase 2 unlikely to make a comeback for the foreseeable future, the rail industry is being forced to plan around a future where only Phase 1 is built. And one of the ways it's been rumoured to confront this is through the use of a mixed fleet of trains, with some trains being 200 metres long and thus capable of being joined into a 400 metre long train, whilst others would be about 250 metres long and therefore able to run on the existing network without reducing overall seating capacity. And now these rumours have been all but confirmed. You see, in 2023, HS2 announced it was looking for manufacturers to supply platform edge doors along the route. As the name suggests, these are the doors that are placed along the platform edge to prevent people falling onto the tracks whilst waiting for a train, and are commonly found in modern metro systems. They were expected to be installed at Old Oak Common and Birmingham Interchange, with an option for the supply of platform edge doors at the planned Manchester Airport station as well for Phase 2. It's worth noting that platform edge doors weren't planned for terminus stations such as London Euston, Birmingham Curzon Street and Manchester Piccadilly, due to the fact that people would wait for the trains on the concourse at these stations rather than on the platforms. The point is that now if you go onto the BidStats website, you can see that the tender for these doors has been abandoned, with the reason given being that HS2 is moving to a revised operating model involving a mixed fleet of different length rolling stock. This makes it much more difficult to provide platform edge doors, as the alignment of the doors on the trains will vary depending on if it's an 8-car or a 10-car, especially for the end carriages, where the presence of a cab forces one of the sets of doors closer to the middle of the carriage. Now, it's worth noting that there's been no formal announcement of this from HS2 themselves yet, but the fact that the tender has been abandoned tells you all you need to know, especially when it gives the reason for its abandonment. Hopefully HS2 Limited is at least able to provide some passive provision for platform edge doors in the future, like has been done on the Northern Line extension. But whatever way you look at it, this is still yet another blow for the project, which will reduce accessibility and safety for what should be Britain's flagship railway. The decision to scrap platform edge doors also raises questions over one of the other potential changes to the line's scope, that being the abandonment of automatic train operation. This is when the train basically drives itself, with computers in charge of acceleration and braking, and is generally considered essential for lines with high frequency or those with platform edge doors, where it has to be able to accurately line up with the doors 100% of the time. HS2 was designed to be capable of running 18 trains per hour in each direction, meaning it would have hit both of the thresholds typically required for automation. However, cuts to the line's scope mean it's now unlikely to ever reach these frequencies either, so the ATO signalling system may also be on the chopping block. Again, this would cause severe headaches in the future if/when we decide to build out the rest of the high-speed network, so if it does get cut, let's hope it's done so in such a way that it can be easily reinstated in the future. I'm getting a bit bored of saying this over and over again, but ultimately this is yet more evidence of the consequences of cancelling Britain's only long-term rail ambition with little to no assessment of the repercussions. Ever since Sunak's announcement, the rail industry has been desperately scrambling to find solutions, but doing so in such a way that we could be limiting the usefulness of the line in the long term. This is just another example of that. Ultimately, it's still a good thing, as it means that at the very least we won't have a reduction in capacity north of Birmingham, but it still falls a long way short of what's needed. But what are your thoughts on this news? Is it yet another blow to the beleaguered project, or is it making the best of a bad situation? Let me know in the comments. And if you'd like to know what the HS2 trains are like in more detail, then check out this video where I toured the interior mock-ups at the Greatest Gathering. Subscribe to Network News for more updates like this, and until next time, thanks for watching.